Okay, this video we're going to create a frequency table, and we're also going to create a histogram based on this data. This data is home voltages. They're ranging from 123.3 all the way up to 124.2, and we have 40 pieces of data. We're going to make our classes 0.2 wide. So my first class is going to go 123.3. That's the bottom limit. The next one will be 123.5. The next one will be 123.7, 123.9, 124.1, and you want to make sure you cover all your data. We have a piece of data that's 124.2, so the lower limit of the last, actually this is the lower limit of the last bin, and so this will actually cover the 124.2 because it's 0.2 wide. So let's put in the upper limits now. Well, we need to go to, let's say we can't go here, I can't go to 123.5, but what we could go is to 123.49. So that's one method. Now you will see another method. Another way that we could report this is we could go to, and this is also correct, less than 123.5. And what that means is up to, but not including 123.5. Either way is fine. So I'm going to actually go back to what we did before. That's a 123.49, and then 123.5 to 123.69, and so on. So make sure you understand that the class widths are 0.2, and so actually we're going up 0.19 to get the upper class limit, and the middle between 123.49 and 123.5 would be that boundary that we call the class boundary. However, you don't have to have this as 123.49 and 123.69 and so on. You could put to just less than 123.5, or here we could put to just less than 123.7. And that's an alternative way of doing the frequency table. Regardless, let's count now. To count, we're going to put the frequency. And the frequency is a count of how many are in each category. So, for example, between 123.3 and 123.49, I have this amount of data. And I'm going to shade this so that I could see it and count it. But that's 10. If I count that, those are 10 numbers there. Similarly, between 123.5 and 123.69, I have this amount of data. I'll shade it just so that I could see how much I have, but that's actually going to be 9 pieces of data. And so we continue in this manner. Now once you're done with the frequency, you might want to total it up to make sure we have 40, because that's how much data we have. So in order to total up the frequency, you can add it by hand, or you can, in Excel, you can go equal SUM, open parentheses, highlight the columns you want to add up, close parentheses, enter. And so this 40 represents the total. This 40 represents the total amount of data we have. Now in a frequency table, it's good to also include the cumulative frequency and relative frequency. First we'll do the relative frequency. What is relative frequency? The relative frequency is the percentage for each class, the percentage of the whole. So for example, 10 represents 1/4 of the data, because we have 40 pieces of 40 numbers, and we have 10 of those in this class here. So this class has 1/4 of the data. So we can do that by hand on a calculator, or in Excel you can go equal this cell divided by the total, which is 40, enter. So 0.25 is the relative frequency for this class 123.3 to 123.49. And you can format that as a percentage by going up above and formatting your cell as a percentage. Now, your Excel may not look exactly like this, but it's very similar. You look for those functions where you can format cells as percentages or whatever you want to format it as. Once you've done one cell, it's very easy to just pull this down from the right corner, and it pulls that formula down and creates percentages for all the cells. I'm going to center this here. And so we have the relative frequency for all our classes. Again, I might want to total this, because equal sum, parentheses, highlight those cells, close parentheses, enter. I want to format this to make sure, because my relative frequencies have to end up adding to 100. The last frequency we want to look at is the cumulative frequency. And the cumulative frequency, what that does is it accumulates the frequencies as we go down. For example, the cumulative frequency for the first class here will be just 10. So I'm going to put equal 10. I put it in formula mode because I actually want to create a formula that I can copy. For the second class, 123.5 to 123.69, the cumulative frequency is the sum of these two cells. It accumulates the frequency. To do that in Excel, we can go equal this above cumulative frequency in F4 plus this new frequency that we have in that cell. Enter. So we have 19. As you can see, we knew it would be 19. But the beauty of doing a formula like that is now I can copy this down and it does it automatically. So make sure you can verify this with your calculator. For example, the third class, the cumulative frequency is 10 plus 9 plus 10, which is 29. Then it's going to be 10 plus 9 plus 10 plus 10, which is 39. And then finally, you add 1 to that to get 40. So this bottom number should be the total number of data you have. So this table here is the complete frequency table. That is the table you want to create for a frequency table. The other part to this is we want to create a graph. To create a graph using Excel is quite easy once you have the data organized. You highlight data, highlight the classes and the frequency, because that's what I want to plot. And the graph I'm going to plot is a bar graph, but a specialized bar graph called a histogram. So a histogram is a bar graph of numerical data. What are the numbers we're talking about? The voltages. So once we highlight our classes and frequency, they should be arranged just as we see it here. Then we want to insert a chart. So again, insert and chart. Now you may have this already in your Excel, but you're going to have these nice pictures here of charts. And what kind of chart do we want? We want a column graph, which is really a histogram. And we want a two-dimensional. The first one is what you normally pick. So that first one is the basic histogram. And there's my histogram. Few problems with this. It's not a histogram yet. I'll take this out because it makes it look bigger. And then these bars should touch. So in order to make these bars touch, we have to right-click on a bar, format data series, and your gap width. Again, yours might like slightly different, but the idea is you want to make the gap width 0. Click OK. There's your histogram. Interesting looking histogram. The voltages are pretty consistent. And you might want to label this histogram. You can make it bigger if you want. You can label this histogram by going to chart layout. And under chart layout, you can label the axes and you can put a title. For example, if I want to label the axes, well, I want to label the horizontal axis and I want to put a title below there, I would put below, what am I looking at? Voltages, right? That's what those classes represent. And then I might want to label the vertical axis. Maybe I want a vertical title. And I could just call that frequency. And you could also put a title on top, which I recommend. So chart title, title above the chart, we could put home voltages. And so there's my histogram of this frequency table.